Good afternoon from the KUOW newsroom. This is Seattle Now. I'm your host, Paige Browning, with a roundup of today's top stories. It's Thursday, July 9th. Woo-wee! It's a mess for commuters today. Light rail is still stopped between Northgate and Capitol Hill on Sound Transit's one line because of some kind of power issue near the University of Washington station. David Jackson is a Sound Transit spokesperson.
This morning before 7 a.m., we had a mechanical issue with one of our light rail vehicles, which led to a power disruption and the stalling of the train.
Train riders hoping to go through North Seattle are still in workaround mode right now, and it's causing delays on the rest of the 1 line and the 2 line. This morning, about 50 people had to be evacuated from the train near the UW station platform. Jackson says that the mechanical problem damaged overhead electrical wires. And now
we have to bring in heavy equipment to move the train and get it out of the way.
Jackson couldn't give an ETA on when that work will be completed. Shuttle buses are available with stops at the Roosevelt, U District, and University of Washington stations. In environment news, Microsoft reports its carbon emissions jumped 25% over the last year, due in large part to its aggressive data center building campaign. If this sounds like deja vu to you, maybe it's because just last week, Amazon reported its carbon footprint, and that had jumped 16% last year, also due in large part to its data center expansion in the AI boom. The data centers are at the core of Microsoft's artificial intelligence infrastructure, and most of them are powered by fossil fuels. It's running against the company's pledge to become carbon negative by 2030. Dry air and heat have felt unrelenting to firefighters in central Washington, but finally today, the Chelan Hills fire in Douglas County is nearing full containment. The fires left 1 person dead and burned about 9,700 acres. Northwest Public Broadcasting's Rachel Sun has more.
The Chelan Hills fire is 75% contained as of Wednesday evening, according to a spokesperson for the fire management team. Road closures and evacuation notices remain in effect as crews mop up the scene and search for hot spots. The public should continue to steer clear of the affected area. Crews say they hope to have most of the fire contained by Thursday evening. By Friday, they plan to leave to support other Northwest fire suppression efforts. A centralized resource page for those affected by the Chelan Hills fire is now available through the Douglas County Sheriff's website. The webpage lists resources for shelter, animals, and other community support. I'm Rachel Sun reporting.
U.S. Senator Patty Murray's calling on the Trump administration to stop planned budget cuts and layoffs at the U.S. Forest Service as the fire season ramps up in Washington. The region's in a prolonged drought and faces an above-normal wildfire risk, according to the National Interagency Coordination Center. Murray spoke with local and state emergency management officials in Everett yesterday for a roundtable.
We have seen this administration seriously weaken the Forest Service ability to do its job. Firing people, chaotic decisions, the management of our forests is absolutely critical to our state, to our region, to our country, and it is being dismantled right now by this administration.
Right now, fire crews are battling the Chelan Hills fire, as we talked about, and many residents in Vantage are under a Level 2 ready-to-go evacuation order because of the ryegrass coulee fire. That fire flared up last night and led to temporary closures on I-90. The dangers of e-bikes are front of mind this week. And now parks officials are trying to remind people motorized vehicles are not allowed on regional trails. That would include some of the high-powered electric motorized bikes on the market. What are allowed on trails are e-scooters and Class 1 and 2 e-bikes in which the throttle is capped at about 20 miles an hour or less. King County says some sheriff's deputies may be out in the parks to remind the public about the dangers of going fast on trails, especially when they're busy. Bringing this into focus is the tragedy on Tuesday when a 14-year-old in Seattle died after a crash in a mountain bike park in the Eastlake neighborhood. Another safety story on people's minds. Seattleites were worried that World Cup visitors and events could bring or spread diseases. So our very own Eilish O'Neill looked into whether or not these fears came true.
Seattle and King County's health department was watching infectious disease levels during the World Cup, and a spokesperson for the agency says they did not see any major increase in illnesses. COVID, for example, is at a much lower level now than it was at this time last year. The only blip is that there was a slight uptick of one virus that causes the common cold, and that virus is now at a moderate level. Eilish O'Neill, KUOW News.
Now to student safety. The King County Council's approved $150,000 for programs to help keep students at Rainier Beach High School safe. The Seattle Medium reports the move comes in response to a shooting at a bus stop near the school in January that left 2 teenagers dead. The new funding will allow the King County Regional Office for Gun Violence Prevention to keep providing students with support services through its Safe Passage programs. The county's also directed Metro to consider safety improvements for bus stops. A few short stories before we go on housing the homeless, data centers, and animal crossings. An old La Quinta Inn hotel that was converted into a housing facility has officially opened up in Kirkland. Sheila Stanton Place is the latest permanent supportive housing community under the King County Health Through Housing program. After some neighbor complaints, the facility is going to require would-be tenants to undergo criminal background checks. We've got 2 more data center bans. Federal Way and Tacoma are now preventing data centers from being built or expanded. Federal Way placed a 1-year moratorium on Tuesday so the city can determine if it needs to create extra regulations for the centers. And in Tacoma, the city determined its code already doesn't allow large data centers unless the council gives permission otherwise, according to the Seattle Times. Seattle and several other jurisdictions already pressed pause on large data centers this year. And finally, there's no safe place for an animal to cross I-5 in Washington. So now, conservation groups and the state are working to develop a wildlife overpass south of Olympia. The bridge would link habitats for elk, cougar, and bears in the Cascade Mountains to those on the Olympic Peninsula. An overpass already exists on I-90 and has seen more than 9,000 wildlife visits since 2018. Next time on Seattle Now, it's Casual Friday, and the city has a lot to celebrate after the World Cup went off without any major incidents, according to the county sheriff's office. Not even any drunk brawls between fans.
The city prefers vague posting. I think it's not a fisticuffs town.
Hear that and more Friday morning. That's all for today from the KUOW Newsroom in Seattle. Our producer is Vaughn Jones, and I'm Paige Browning, and we are hoping to get some sleep now that the fireworks are over and our dogs aren't waking us up at 1 a.m. Seattle Now and KUOW are members of the NPR network. Thanks for listening. See you later.